So as many of you guys know, I'm a second generation insurance professional, and throughout my career I've had the opportunity to serve on the agency side and the carrier side. But you know, the conversation's always been the same. It's been about the customer life cycle, it's been about the hard market, the soft market, it's been about what's next in the industry. And we're gonna tackle all of those subjects as we get into season 3 of the podcast. We're taking the podcast to a whole new level here. Welcome to the VIP Podcast, Season 3. Let's go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the VIP Podcast. I'm pumped you're here. I'm pumped you and I are here in the studio for a couple of days. It's so much fun to actually do this live with you instead of being Zoomed.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but 1 foot away from you in a really uncomfortable chair in a warm office in the middle of Denver, Colorado.
It's perfect. It's all absolutely perfect.
It is.
And then, hey, if you guys hear a third voice, actually a fifth voice, we have a lot of people on this podcast today. We got the orange mic sessions going on here. Chad over here, our producer, is going to be on the mics too a little bit.
You might just hear me laughing at you guys.
There
Check that out. That voice just buttery smooth. I just love
also,
it.
I feel like you need to give a quick intro to the one and only Chad Skinner.
Man, Chad Skinner is...
He's not just Chad.
No, he's not just Chad.
He's Chad.
He's Chad Skinner, and a flex for Chad, he's got 11 Emmy Awards, and he used to do some work on Denver television stations, worked with the Broncos. He's done some shorts and he's just done a lot of cool stuff. So, guys, if you hear this buttery smooth voice from the side, it's Chad. And
all flattery.
Right? And he's so humble. He wants to stay off camera and all that. Otherwise, we'd all look bad. So if you guys hear this voice, it's Chad. And you may see him on camera a little bit in the future. So we just want to introduce him to you a little bit there. But I really want to introduce my guests right now. This is probably the most podcasts I've been a part of, or most people on a podcast I've been a part of since I've been here. So we've got 2 guests today, including Chad on the side. So there's 5 of us on here. Am I right? Is my math right?
Yeah.
Is the math mathin'?
Math is mathin'.
Awesome. So the math is math. All right. So we've got Kenneth Williamson from Portal Insurance, and he is director of operations, former producer there, been with Bradley, probably babysitting Bradley for a long time now, since year 2, I imagine. And so I'm glad that.
Yep.
And hopefully you guys are watching this on YouTube. If you're not, go to YouTube, subscribe, check us out. The Orange Channel, Channel Orange.
Yeah.
But Kenneth has this amazing hair. We've been talking about it for at least
thank
15 minutes
you.
pre-podcast. It's so good, dude.
Sid and I, we think we have hair game, but we don't, especially when you look at Kenneth.
No, that's why I wore a hat, because I knew Kenneth was
I'll have to take a picture of it while it's down for you later.
And I guarantee you could rock a mean man bun. I guarantee it. So.
Oh yeah, that's what I got.
Look at that.
That's what I got.
That's side profile.
Wow. Look,
next level, guys.
That's next level. You're right. Now, you just heard the voice you probably heard for a long time now. Mm-hmm. Guys, this guy's a legend. Scott Howell of the Insurance Guys podcast and the owner of iProtect Insurance. Been around, I'm going to date you a little bit. He's been around a long time on the captive side, the independent side. He's a good friend of ours. He's a good friend of the show, probably a good friend of yours. And we're going to dive into a little bit more of that. But, boys, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so
Thanks
much,
for having
man.
us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us today. I'm excited and proud to be here. And anytime I get to visit with you two, whether on a Zoom or podcast or in person, it's always a lot of fun to catch up. I love both of you, and I wish nothing but the best for both of you.
Oh gosh.
Golly, it's already started. Like waterworks are about to start going here, man. I appreciate it.
Can we, before you get into it, Scott, I have to ask, where are you, dude? What is this? That is not a Zoom back. And if you tell me that's a Zoom background, I'm going to be pissed.
That's the
That
concept.
is beautiful.
No, this is my dining room. So
That
where
is your
I'm sitting,
dining room?
Yeah.
You're putting
so
Chip and
where I'm
Joanna
sitting,
Gaines to shame.
Right.
Just to show you that I'm truly in rural Alabama. There
it is.
Yep, convinced.
I have a deer in my dining room.
Oh, is that what that is?
What's his name?
And
Did you name it?
This is a stained glass window that we bought that came out of a Baptist church in Birmingham that was being torn out that we used as our dining room window. I don't know if you can see it or not.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, our house is very, very eclectic. I think both of you've met my wife,
Oh,
and
yeah.
She's got
it's a
style.
cross between Pottery Barn and living in a barn.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
So,
Yeah, I recognized it from the TikToks and some of the videos. Again, I'm a big fan and love you,
Yep.
man, and what you're doing. And I gotta talk to you a little bit while we're on this. Kenneth, just hang out with me for a minute because I know you're gonna just hang out because I got a fanboy for a minute, and a lot of our listeners are gonna be this way too. But Scott, you and Bradley have had over 1 million downloads on your podcast.
Wait, how many?
Over 1 million.
How many zeros
Yeah.
is that?
That's a lot of zeros. And
So-
I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into that. I know there's a lot of patience being with Bradley for that long. And I know there's a lot of just a lot of dedication in that. Yeah. But I know, here's the thing I love the most. Is before you get into it, I'm going to say it for you. But Scott, you're the most passionate guy I've ever met in my life for our industry. And I know that's legitimate, and I know it's genuine because you and I have sat and talked 5:30 in the morning in hotel rooms talking about the industry. So now I'll let you go, but I had to say that for you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. So, I think if the question is kind of what got us to 1 million downloads, I would attribute it to two things, or maybe three things. But number one, I'll keep these short, is consistency. So, the one thing that Johnny Gwynn, our producer, and Bradley both know is if you really want to piss Scott Howell off, don't have a new podcast release on Wednesday at 6 a.m. and you'll get the full wrath. Like at 6:05, why in the hell is there not a podcast downloaded yet? So consistency is number one. I think everybody has their own podcast outside the insurance industry that they listen to. And, you get in this habit of listening to whatever that is, whether it's a crime drama podcast or a comedian, Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura on Two Bears, One Cave.
2 Bears, 1 Cave, yes.
Yeah. But you get into this rhythm of listening to it, and that's why I'm talking about consistency right now. So if Tom and Bert, and we certainly aren't as big as they are, but Tom and Bert just decided that they were going to take 4 weeks off. If you watch their downloads and listenership, it would just drop off. Like, people would stop going and trying to listen into that. So that's number one. Number two, I think, these candy companies, these cookie manufacturers, they're always looking for what they call the bliss point. And the bliss point is that have you ever eaten something, and I do it all the time, and I get down in the floor and I'm like, my God, this is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's that perfect blend of like savory, almost salty, but sweet. You know what I'm talking about? And I think that's our podcast. So you've got Scott with these just stories that if Bradley didn't say that he had seen it with his own eyes, I don't think most people would think they were true. And then you've got Bradley, who is the more, actual insurance agent who has really good viewpoints on technology and running an agency efficiently. And so you've got this bliss point going on. You've got this redneck half farmer that's got 1 million stories to tell. Me, I call it the WWE factor. And then you've got Bradley sitting there, kind of a counterpoint to me. It's that bliss point. And so I've always felt like that's what makes our podcast what it is that bliss point that we have. And then, I hate to say it because it's going to sound like bragging, but I think, we're both pretty good dudes, man. I'm not out here on anybody. I'm not out here creating drama. I'm not getting involved in drama. Let me say this. If you're in drama or you got a bunch of drama going on, Scott probably didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
I don't even know about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Sid on the spot. We had a conversation about you in the Uber yesterday.
Okay, Scott, I have to ask you because really quick because I will get into that. Okay, so Heath and I have been recording for, I don't know, we've probably recorded maybe 20 episodes together.
Maybe
20-ish.
Maybe more.
And when you're like, I went from recording solo to recording with him, so there was this awkward like, we're like stepping on our toes trying to figure each other out, but we've hit this point now where we're literally in each other's brains.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I will look over at him and he'll ask a question. I'm like, holy crap, that was the question I was thinking. And he asked it 10 times better than I did.
And same thing, vice versa. Do you and
yeah, do you guys, are you in each other's head?
Do y'all share a brain?
100%.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm gonna get real like I don't know, like what's the word?
Sorry,
I'm
Kenneth.
looking
You just
for?
gotta hang out for a minute. We'll get to you.
Yeah, I'm about to get like really kind of
I love you, Kenneth.
kind of kooky acting here for just a second.
Okay.
I swear to God, I believe this. I think that there is something to energy.
Oh yeah.
And,
for sure.
Well,
you know,
100%.
one thing that Bradley and I always talk about is how much better our podcasts are in person, like you two are doing today, instead of over Zoom, because you know, he's trying to get up to my energy, which is hard to do. I'll agree with that, but we can play off each other's energy. There's something to that energy
100%.
thing. And just kind of feeding off each other. And what you two just kind of said was kind of start reading each other's mind a little bit. It's kind of weird.
Yes.
100%.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I can't explain
mean-
it. I know it's kooky. I know people are like, Scott, you're full of I'm telling
No.
you, there's something to it.
No, I agree with you, but back to the original question. I need you
Yeah.
to tell it. We had this
Okay.
conversation in Uber yesterday.
Yeah, we did. So you nailed on 3 out of 3 for sure in terms of what makes your podcast awesome. But the last one was your character. And we had this long conversation in the car about insurance influencers, which I called them thought leaders. I was like, God, what am I in the 90s? No, it's an influencer today. I had to get up to speed.
Yeah.
And which influencers were actually, were kind of like, is it fake news or are they actually an influencer?
Or are they in it for the passion and the love of the industry, or are they in it just to get some likes and some clicks?
Right. And you guys, this might be a polarizing opinion. I might stir some feelings up with this, but I truly believe that you guys have, in terms of like influencership, the most amount of influence in the industry today.
Well,
and then that is because you're the most non-influencer, right?
100%.
And I'm saying that I hope that other people listen to this. Like, you guys just don't care, and you don't care about the stuff that, I think a lot of others do care about, right? And you're just there to do it and have fun with it and help, and that's it, right? It's
100%.
Awesome.
So this year, Bradley and I did not take podcast sponsors.
Wow.
And
wow.
part of the reason for that, now we had 3 or 4 would reach out and been wanting to do something, and we may end up doing something with somebody before the year's over. But I cannot tell you how many people have reached out to me and been like, thank goodness I don't have to go through those sponsorship ads to get to the podcast. But I've always called myself or I guess us, but more I think me, the anti-thought leader. And in that, I have no aspirations about, being in some type of legislative position within the industry or anything like that. And I just, I think people that listen to podcasts can pick up kind of intuitively on who's being genuine and hanging it. I call it hanging it out there. And who is, kind of in it just to get clicks or some bigger thing out there or whatever. I listen, I tell them all the time on the podcast, I cried like a baby about 8 episodes when I talked about my plan, long-term 10-year plan, about selling the agency or doing some type of ownership exchange. And I started talking about the fact that that day would be the last day I ever podcast, because as I said that day, I will not do a podcast if I'm not in the game every single day, so that I can at least, when I talk to somebody, either call bull because I'm the one in the damn foxhole over here every day. Or I can agree and say, nope, he's right. I see it every day. I have I'll have 3 territory manager meetings this week, probably in person. Got one tomorrow, is Wednesday. Yeah. Got one with Liberty Mutual tomorrow. And I just feel like if you're going to do this, now y'all's deal is a little different, but if you're going to reach out to like agents and talk the talk, you better be able to walk the walk.
Yep.
Well, that's one of the things that I will say. First of all, Sid's 3rd generation. I'm 2nd generation. So we've been around. We both stay in, and we both feel the same way. We want to have our finger on the pulse. We want to know what's going on. So I'm with you on that. And one of the things, for the guys and girls that are listening, may not know Scott, there's a lot of insurance podcasts out there. Let's just be honest with it. And some of them are pretenders, and some of them are contenders and real deal agency owners. And a couple of episodes ago, or I don't know how long ago when this comes out, but you put out an episode with Bradley, and you shared your real numbers, your real revenue numbers in your agency. And I stepped back like, holy this guy's got a real deal. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew you did, but when you share transparency on your numbers, you don't have to do it right now if you don't want to, but to share that, be like, man, because a lot of people think, how is he producing this much content and have a real deal agency? And you do. And I think that goes to a lot of different things there. You must have a really good team, first of all, but number 2, you're in the trenches every day. You're in the foxhole, as you calls it.
Yep. So, our agency, we have 6 locations. We have I just looked at our agency intelligence report this morning. So we're at $14,100,000 in premium total.
That's
I'm going to share something. I'm going to share something right now that I haven't shared. And I think a lot of people will turn the radio up or the dial up when they hear this.
I just did. I don't know about you.
In December of 2022, we had in our agency just north of $8 million in premium with Nationwide Insurance. Now, what most of you know is last September of 23, Nationwide came out and said, spigot's cut off. We're not going to write new business unless it's like the most pristine thing in the world. We might not even write that. And we're getting off a lot of our stuff, non-renewing stuff. And I told the C-suite executives at Nationwide, I said, look, if y'all aren't careful, you're about to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And sure enough, so every month I get a list of personal lines clients and commercial clients. And that list sometimes is as long as 150 accounts that they are non-renewing.
Oh my gosh.
I say all that to say that my agency, we have been playing defense for the last year like the 85 Chicago Bears.
Right.
Every month, it is an up at dawn, pride-swallowing siege to, First, if we don't get to them fast enough at 30 days, we get the call. Hey, I just got a letter saying my insurance is going to cancel. What are you going to do about it? And we're trying desperately to stay ahead of that. I've overhired on the account manager side because, well, quite frankly, we had to just to play as much defense as we've been playing. Now, here comes the hard part. Just had a meeting about this last week. We had what I call the 2024 Scott Howell Ass Chewing of the Year Award goes to my sales team, because I got them on a Zoom call, actually Google Hangout, just like this. And I said, guys, at some point, and we're not far away, this market's going to turn. And I think we're already starting to kind of see that happen a little bit, although we're not nearly out of the woods. At some point, we're going to have to stop playing defense and start playing offense.
Right.
And, that's a delicate balance of when to do that, because everybody on this podcast and everybody listening to this podcast, if you don't already know this, should know this. The money in the insurance business is not in new business. I can put a sales
100%.
bell up and we can high five each other about that $50,000 account we wrote. If it's going out the back door faster than it's coming in the front door, it don't matter how much you sell. You're just a hamster on a wheel. And that's where we've been for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
We've been a hamster on a wheel. we'll write 50,000, or excuse me, 150,000 or 100,000 a month, and we lose 102,000.
Yeah.
And it almost defeats like all the work people put in, because I don't know. And so you'll hear me on our podcast a lot talk about, you got to figure out how to slam that back door shut. And the only way I know to do it is to be so far above and beyond. So here, Heath, if you have your insurance with iProtect, there's one thing I can promise you. This is what I tell new prospects all the time. Because I have gotten to a point in my career where my give a damn button broke. I will literally get on. You can't do this if you're a new producer. Don't try it, because somebody will just hang up on you. I'll get on the phone with somebody and I'll say, do you know why you're going to put your insurance with me? And they'll go, no. Why? And I say, because I might be the only son of in the entire United States of America, but definitely in the Southeast, that when our after hours phone system through Lightspeed kicks on at 5:01 p.m., when you call that number, our main office, 444-2041, it first thing it says, if this is a claims emergency, press 1 to be connected to Scott Howell's cell phone. And what I tell them is this. Now, that may not be important to you right now, but let me tell you what's about to happen. Not never in the history of ever, since Jesus walked on this earth, has a claim ever happened between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday
100%.
through Friday.
Yeah.
If you have a damn claim at your house, guess when it's going to happen? 7 a.m. on Sunday, 9:30 at night on Saturday, Thursday at 10:30 at night. Your damn house is going to burn down.
Yep.
And if you're with anybody else, good luck getting in touch with somebody at 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, because it ain't going to happen.
Preach. Okay, a lot to unpack there, but I do want to bring Kenneth in here a minute, because you've been so patient. Okay, so first of all, you brought up the hard market, and I believe you're right. I believe we're somewhere in the end of the second quarter, maybe third quarter if it's a ball game. So we're getting to the tail end, I feel like. But I still think we do have a little ways to go on this hard market. But
by the way, let me interrupt you. That assumes that Hurricane Sidney Rowe, and I'm just making that up, it could be any name out there, doesn't like crisscross the state of Florida in August, and then we're right back to square
100%.
one on Candyland.
No, I agree with you. And so, again, navigating, hard market, going through what you talked about, keeping that back door shut. Kenneth, you made a pivotal, a big transition in your career, a year and a half ago or so, from producer to, operating or operations manager, whatnot. Talk to me a little bit about that. You went from, producer to, I guess, managing producers and service and Bradley and the whole, game there. Talk to me a little bit about in this hard market, what that's been, because you've only been in it in the hard market. You don't know a soft market.
Yeah, no, if I can, Scott, if I can steal your thing and jump in your DeLorean, man. And a little bit of background, I did have a background video of a DeLorean playing for you, but it was a little too distracting. But yeah, so I have not been in the industry too long. I've been only in it for about 4 years and only at Portal. And so I had no expectation of the industry at all. I had no idea, other than I needed to buy insurance myself, what insurance entailed. So I was between jobs after college for a little while. I was working in an internship with a local entrepreneur, learned a lot of great things from him, but I needed some consistent income. And Bradley had told me, we had a lot of conversations. This guy introduced me to him, and Bradley, we hit it off, and he was like, if you get your license, I'll hire you. I was like, okay, say less. And I didn't know how long it took to get a license. So I just studied every night, worked on it for 4 days. On the 5th day, I drew 4 hours, got my license, called Bradley. I said, I got it. He said, no, you didn't. I said, I got it right here. And then we had a conversation. We started. And yeah, I immediately in the first meeting with Bradley really saw his vision for the industry and his company and how well he treats others. And I really wanted to be a part of that. And we started in sales because we had to keep the lights going. It was just me, him, and our now director of sales, Miss Natasha May. Hey, Natasha, if you're watching this, love you. You do a great job. But but yeah, starting sales, I can do sales. I can do it. I'm not passionate about it. And that's one of the great things about Bradley is he'll sit with his team and try to figure out what our passions are. And as we started growing a little bit, my passion is still the clients, but at the end of the day, my passion is for the team that we have and giving them the resources. And he saw that, started in service a little bit, and a little bit after he was like, how would you feel about running my operations? And I was like, yeah, I would love that, man. And yeah, that's kind of where we are today. I really just love building resources for our team, helping them get everything they need in order to perform their job, hit the dreams they want to achieve.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal something from Sid. Go ahead.
Can I say something real quick about Kenneth?
Please do.
I haven't been around. So yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
No, I just wanted to say, I know Bradley's not here today, but Kenneth is about as good as I've ever seen in creating. To serve your clients, you don't just necessarily have to be in sales or an account manager. So in areas where he's passionate about things that he still serves his clients is like creating these unbelievable automations that have that perfect copyright for things like late pays or policy pending cancellations and man, to have somebody like that in your agency that their mind allows them to be able to, and their expertise to do that kind of thing. I don't know that clients really, I know they don't know that he's behind the scenes like the wizard in the Wizard of Oz. But I'm telling you right now, he is about as good as anybody as I've ever seen at doing that kind of stuff. And I think Bradley is blessed to have him on his team. I'm sorry, Heath. I just wanted to say that.
No, you're good. You go ahead.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Scott.
Dude, I was just going to say, I was just steal from some Sid. We talked yesterday on a podcast about service team being kind of the unsung heroes of the agency. And they don't get a ton of love. And you just kind of alluded to that a little bit with Kenneth. Like, a lot of people don't know he's behind the scenes. But what does that look like for you as you're setting up your team for success in that area? Of course, talking about keeping the back door closed or even new business or navigating hard market, carrier relationships, all the above. Take it from whatever angle you want to. But what does that look like for you, David?
Yeah, so I'll keep it real simple. So I start my day exactly the same every day. I'll listen to some upbeat music. I'll sit there and I'll breathe real slow, and I'll think of the word intentional. And I'll think of the word intentional for everything I do throughout the day. And I don't have it right now, but at my computer at the home office, I have a little sticker on the top of my computer that just says mindfulness. And I'll think about it throughout the day. I'll reach out to everyone on our team at the beginning of the day, like, hey, we ready for this day? You know how to reach me? And just keeping that in the back of your mind. So I'll keep that in the back of my mind whenever helping them create resources or listening to them whenever they have ideas. But
Dude,
you
are spitting gold right now, bro.
Right?
Keep on.
Right? Come on.
But no, it's kind of hard not to have it hokey whenever you tell them, like, let's get this day, guys. We got this. But a little hokey goes, it can be helpful sometimes. Sometimes they need to hear it. But yeah, that's really what I do within a day is just think. Like, I literally also at the beginning of the day, I remember my entire journey. I'll play through it in my head. Like, this is where I was. This is where I am in 2 years. This is where I and the team want to be in 5 years. And I just keep that playing in my head.
Dude, TEDx right there. This is the TED Talk going on.
Wow.
That was awesome. No, I will say, to your point on that, I had never really been a part of an environment like that or a culture like that. But my girl over here next to me here, she does that every morning. Like, she'll send out some motivational thing or a song that she listens to that morning, like, let's effing go. Let's get this party going. Let's sorry, I'm gonna get you fired. But just like, let's get this day. Let's get after it. And you do a really good job of motivating me and the team in that. So I think there's a lot to what he's saying.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's all mindset.
Yeah, there's this video I like to listen to in the morning a lot. It's actually Jim Carrey.
Oh.
And he's playing he's doing a speech, and he's talking about he's like I had to figure out who Jim Carrey was. And he was like, in order to do that, I had to realize, like, I'm not just me and my body. I am how I'm perceived to others. So if I, like you were saying earlier, Scott, energy. So like if I'm giving out good energy is going to follow and help everybody around you.
Yep.
Kind of like whenever you just smile whenever you're making a phone call. You can feel
So
it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
People can hear it.
People can hear it. I know you're a big tonality guy, Scott, but I won't get you off on that rabbit trail right now. But I do know that that's a big thing for him. But I'm going to ask the 4 other people on this, podcast a little bit. If Chad wants to jump in on this too, of like, where does that come from when you guys have like that positive attitude? 'Cause I know Chad off air, he's got it too. But where does that come from for you guys? And what does that look like as a leader in your agency? Is that something you feel like a pressure to do, or is that just a natural thing for the 4 of you? Either one, any of you.
If I could be completely honest,
Yeah.
I have to fake it most mornings.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to fake it. You have to put on that strong face. You have to be the leader. So half of the time I'm faking it and then perpetuate it.
You almost have to do it for yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Well, it's a muscle you have to flex, right? So, I haven't talked about this yet. I was gonna put a post on social, and then it just felt too. I don't know. It felt too. Like I wanted to make sure I was doing it for the right reasons, and I wasn't quite sure what to say about the experience. But have you guys heard of ayahuasca?
Been wanting to do it. I've been wanting to do an ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I don't want to say trip. I want to say
Do it
Experience.
like
right
go to
now.
Costa Rica with a shaman and actually do it. I would love to do that.
Yeah, I went to Peru. I went to Iquitos, literally in the middle of the jungle. I woke up Saturday morning, the last day I was there, and I remember going to breakfast with, there's just a group of 19 other people, so just 20 of us. Make sure you do it with a small group, by the way. There's some that
Is 19 a small group?
Yeah, well, there's some that do 3 or 4. It's just more expensive if you go like under 5 people. It's up, you're talking like more than a couple grand, right? Like you're talking more like 10, 11 grand, which I was not willing to pay. But I'm sure you get an even better experience because you have more of that one-on-one with the shaman. But yeah, I woke up on Saturday morning, went to breakfast with the group, and somebody goes, Did somebody hear a gunshot last night? And I said, oh man, I had a moment where I thought that was fireworks. And they're like, Sid, we're in the middle of the Amazon jungle. Who the heck is lighting off fireworks? And they go, no, it's a gunshot because we're in the Amazon and there's other tribes. We're in this hut sort of area, tribal hut area. And there's other tribes that are near us and, jaguars and different things. So they were protecting the border of the area that we were in, essentially. That's how far out we were from, because we flew into Iquitos and then went an hour and a half down this river, and and so it was literally out in the middle. I didn't realize how far out I was till the last day, but I actually think since then, I appreciate Heath's compliments and whatnot, but I would say I'm actually probably not as consistent with the hyping up the group as I would want to be, but it's something I've struggled with, like, do I put on the fake face or do I not? I just wait till I feel it, right? Like I think since that experience, what I've learned is when I'm really truly connected to myself, like the breathing exercises you do, Kenneth, in the morning, when I'm really in tune with where I am in a moment and what's going on around me and what the team needs, I show up, right, in that way. And sometimes the group does not need hype. Sometimes they actually need a quiet morning. Sometimes they need a one-on-one. Sometimes they need, and so it's less about bringing the energy and it's more about bringing the right energy by being in touch with myself enough that I'm able to perceive, right, what's going on around me and figure out what everybody else needs. And I don't do it right a lot of the times. I still struggle.
Hey, Sid, can I ask you a question? And then I've got one statement I want to make that.
Yeah, you go, dude.
Some people are going to probably never listen to our podcast again after I say it, but that's okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Did you feel like
a million downloads to say otherwise?
Hey, do you feel like that experience on that? I'll call it a journey. in
Yeah.
Peru changed you forever?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I will say, and I'm an EQ guy. I barely scratched the 8th grade. I have the brain of a small squirrel. When we got on here today and you started talking and just your body language and your tonality, I remember thinking to myself, Sid seems a lot more laid back today than she normally is when I
Yeah.
see her.
Yeah. Well, because I don't have that nervous, anxious energy where
Yeah,
I'm worried about what other people are thinking. I think at this
right.
point, so, I think ayahuasca is such an interesting thing. I think a lot of people can get to the place that ayahuasca gets you to, but it just takes longer, right?
Right.
Like I remember our shaman saying, hey, we're going to try and do what people accomplish in 40 years in 4 days. So it's almost like
Right.
a cheat code to coming into touch with yourself, and it's a roller coaster. I mean, I could tell you some stories that I am not going to share on this podcast. But
Yeah. So let me say this, and we'll move on.
yeah.
This is like phase one of me becoming like a cult leader, probably, but I'm going to say it anyway. I number one, I do believe in God. I do believe in God.
Same. Yep.
Do believe in God.
Check.
I don't believe. Well, I don't know this for a fact, but you ask like, how do we do this? And I think the three of them gave their opinion, and my opinion is this: I'm not so sure that God, where we as Americans anyway, that go to church, kind of have this opinion of God and this view of God as a human being type. The guy with the big beard, and you're going to go up to heaven, and he's meet you at the pearly gates. He may be something completely different in the form of energy, right? I believe that God lives in each one of us, okay? Almost like a light inside you. And here it comes. Here it comes. So I believe whatever that dark energy is that people I think refer to, they make that connection to Satan maybe or
Yep.
the devil or whatever.
Yep.
I just have always felt that when you lead with love and you decide that light that's inside you that maybe that's God. Maybe
Yeah.
that's God. It's some
Yep.
type of energy light form that's inside each and every one of us, but each and every one of us has the other part of us too, right?
Yep.
But when you lead with that, rather than the dark side, and you get in drama and you get in cuss fights on social media, and you hate on people, and you're piping on social media about I just think that love wins, man.
Yeah. So
I just think love wins.
here's how I would put that. And I'm still working through this philosophically. And dude, we should have a beer or coffee sometime because I would love to pick your
Sure.
brain on this. So when I came out, I remember I went to dinner with my mom. She actually came to visit me. I was living in DC, and I remember sitting across the table from her at a restaurant, and she said, "Sid, you're going to hell." And that scared the living bejesus out of me. In the moment, I was like, oh, no, kind of protective mode, ego came on.
Sure.
I remember I walked out of the
Defensive.
restaurant, I was like, not about it. But
By the way, never in your life did you need Sky Howell sitting beside you more than that day, because she and I would have gone 10 rounds.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And she didn't, my mom and I have come a long way in the last 10, 11
Sure.
years now. But in that moment, I internalized this fear and reality of hell, right, as this sort of place down below, underneath, like sort of all the religious beliefs or principles, right, that we hear about. And what's changed about my framework now since this experience is, number one, we are nothing compared to the cosmos. I mean, it is so much.
Speck of sand, at the beach,
Our
right? Pretty much.
tiny human brains think that we have the capacity and capability to wrap our little tiny human brains around what's actually going on in the universe. That right there blows my mind, right?
Right.
That went right out the window. So number one, I'm like questioning everything at this point in a good way, not in a, I don't know about this, but in a, why does that work that way? How does that work? And, challenging like basic principles that we believe in. I had they call it an ego death, but essentially it's where what people refer to as spirit or soul sort of separates from your physical body, and you're able to kind of see it from above. And you realize that you are a lot more than your physicality and materialism. And what we do a lot of times is we create these systems in order to kind of keep our physicality to make it behave, right? And to make it so that everybody can kind of connect and live together and, live in one. And it comes from that idea of physicality or ego as opposed to this internal, sort of soul centric or spirit centric place, which is it's very interesting. So what I also realized is when you sort of release yourself from that ego, you're a lot more connected from that energetic place to people around you. I was more connected to people in the room. You're more connected to people even outside the room, right? Again, I can tell you stories about that, like other places in the universe, other realms. Like it's really kind of trippy. What I realized was that type of connection was never really something I'd felt before. And that the idea of love, we call it love. Again, words are hard, right? Connection is how I might also describe it. When you're really in tune with connecting to yourself, it's a lot easier to connect with others and be connected with what's going on around you. And when you experience disconnection from yourself or from other people is when you start to feel that like loneliness, that desperation, that hopelessness, and ultimately like that victimhood and powerlessness. And there's sort of this like spiral that you go down, right? And it's not, I agree. I don't necessarily think of it as, a hell. I guess you could term it that way, but it's more of just this disconnection from sort of the source of the universe or love or, the universe itself. I know, again, this sounds really crazy, and I can't believe I'm saying this on a Vertafore podcast, but that's, agreed wholeheartedly. That's kind of the way I would think about it. We got to get a beer at some point.
You know how you can prove that out? I'll tell you exactly how you can prove it out.
Let's go.
So in the last 5 years, really 10 years, all these reality shows have come out where they stick somebody out in the wilderness by themselves. There's one, I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's called Alone, where they take like 10 people, they separate them by like 3 to 5 miles, but they put them in Alaska by themselves. And every single person that they put on that show, some of these guys and girls are like expert wilderness people. In about 55 days, most of them are like, I can't do this anymore. I want to go home and see my family.
Because we were built for relationships. We were built for that. We were built to have that. Literally, Eve was put on this earth to Adam's helper and made from the, So, I think that we were made for relationship, and in an awkward transition here probably. I do think that goes back into insurance. I think the relationship will always be key. The relationship will always be king in this business, no matter where you're at. In the hard market, soft market, whatever you're going through, whatnot. And
see, now I thought you were gonna go, and that's why we need an intranet, because we all need to be more connected.
Boom! I'm gonna get there, dude. My bad. I wasn't.
Beautiful segue, Sid.
Beautiful. See, you did it way better than I did. I was trying, so it's like I gotta get this back around. I gotta tie this in. We gotta earn our paycheck.
Hey, I'll say this. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. No, I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead. You're about to say.
I was just gonna say. In terms, one of the things I talk about all the time on the podcast is, I think technology is a beautiful thing. I think Vertafore has some beautiful products, some great products. I think Kenneth and I would both stand on the pulpit and we could talk for hours about Agency Zoom and how wonderful that product is.
About it.
Yeah, Kenneth. I think Kenneth's written a book about it.
Kenneth's back in the room. He's here.
Woo!
But I'll say this: the one thing I have never been able to square away when it comes to direct to consumer insurance carriers like Lemonade and some others is I don't believe, because the only reason any of us are here, the only reason any person here is talking to each other is really we don't make our money when we just take people's premium, right? We make our money when we're there for them in the worst
Yep.
possible
On their worst day.
thing that's ever happened. They come home, their house is burned down or whatever. And I just don't see from a retention standpoint, if there's no relationship, how or why somebody, when a company like Lemonade needs to take 47% rate, how are you going to keep them? All they're going to do is look at the bill and say, well, I'm not paying this. I'll just go get my stuff somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that relationship part of this industry is so important. And as I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, I just want my agents to have the relationship with our clients where at least they call them and say, hey, Scott, I need you to get my insurance down or I might have to go somewhere else. That's all I want. You know, give me a chance to make it right or to get something else if I have it. But if you don't have that relationship, you know what you get, Sid? An email on Thursday afternoon at 4:00. Please cancel my insurance. I've gone with another carrier.
With no heads up.
Yeah.
None.
And I'll
None.
be fully transparent. When I decided to come over here at Vertafore, one of the reasons I did was because, and I didn't know coming to a technology company what would this look like, but I'm a big relationship guy. I've talked about it forever. And one of the things I read when I first got here, the tagline, powering your possibility here at Vertafore, and they talk about internally here a lot from the top down, how much technology is there to help relationships, to put our clients, you guys, in the position to build those relationships, to close
100%.
more deals, yes, but also to put your people, Kenneth, Scott, in a position to build relationships, to further their, relationships with their clients. And so, again, to bring this back around a little bit, you brought up something about Kenneth that I want to get into for a few minutes before we have to wrap up and you talked about you couldn't shut up at Agency Zoom, so I'll put you to the test there for a minute, Kenneth. But how much does that Agency Zoom truly help your staff build that relationship and do that? And what kind of build outs do you have for some of that, if you want to talk about it just for a minute?
Yeah, no. After this podcast, I would love to share you my PowerPoint of how much we love Agency Zoom.
We may have to bring you on a webinar and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a webinar.
But
it's done.
But yeah, no, man.
You heard it here.
But no, it's a great resource to have, and I want to first say I really appreciate y'all's team at Agency Zoom because y'all really listen to the input of the agent. And like I've reached out to several of your team, and I'm like, hey, this would be really nice to have, and they've helped make it a reality. But yeah, no, I mean we use it from everything from helping us automate notifications to clients on quotes, to seamlessly creating a handoff procedure where the agent only has to take 2 minutes, pass it off to the service team, wrap it up, and then just retention. And honestly, Agency Zoom has really been crucial to helping us with the retention whenever y'all implemented the service center. It's been really nice.
Yeah, I appreciate it. If there's any one or two pieces of or sentence of advice you could give to someone listening right now, whether in your role or in a management role, what would that be from your perspective, Kenneth?
Do you mean just relatively, like?
Yeah, relatively using Agency Zoom like a way that they could, use some sort of Agency Zoom piece to further that relationship or to help their staff. Because you said you're all about your staff, putting them in the best position.
Yeah. So let's see.
I put you on the spot.
I would say, be really careful with your automations. Make them make sense. So 2 things with automations. So Bradley was really good at doing the copyright, like Scott was saying earlier. So all of our texts have, the personality behind them. They don't feel robotic and they come at the right time. Another thing is, I would say if you are going to utilize automations with task, I would say add redundancies just to make yourself safe. Redundancies, it might be annoying, but it will it adds a level of accountability. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What else did you ask?
Kenneth, while you're thinking about what the other thing you were going to say, let me ask you this question to piggyback off what Heath just asked you. Would you agree though that there is a tight wire act that you're walking that tight wire between having enough automations in there and maybe there's a little redundancy there, and I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But then if you fall off the tight wire, normally it's because the redundancy is just too much. Like late pay notification, instead of having 5, you have 10.
Yeah.
In different forms, like an email, a ringless voicemail, a text message, whatever. And I'll give you a perfect example. Our claims automation through Vertafore's agency Zoom. We go in and look, and the person that had created it had like 12 automations. To the point, I had people calling me that had a claim, and they're like, "You got to turn some of this off. This is y'all are sending me something every other 30 minutes, it feels like."
Yeah, that's a really good point, Scott. So one of the things at our agency, we're really transparent. Like I guess we'll get into it later, but I just want to kind of point towards it. So the intranet that we've created over time, I have a spreadsheet, or actually a Google document, that lists out every single automation within our agency, where I can read it like a book, where I can understand what goes on. And so that allows new people in our agency to see a 30,000 foot view. Stole that from Bradley, you're welcome. But a 30,000 foot view of our agency to, really understand what's going on. So anytime we have somebody brand new, it might feel like info overload, but I'm like, hey guys, this is exactly what our agency looks like. So you can pinpoint and dive in. And then kind of another add-on to the agency Zoom is, we meet quarterly. Me, Natasha, and Bradley, we'll meet quarterly, and we'll be like, hey, our agency has grown. Does this workflow, do these automations, do they still make sense, or do they need to be tweaked and refined? Because the larger you grow, the more the little problems become larger problems that you need to address. And another thing that we have at our agency to keep track of those is, I'm really big about, I don't think there's, it's going to sound stupid, but I don't necessarily like the idea of issue. I like the idea that there's a problem that we don't yet have a solution for. So we always try to tackle things in that light. So we have a document where we can be like, oh, this is we call it occurrence. So this is an occurrence I found. Here are examples of the occurrence, and other people can add to that, where we can work as a team to come up with the best solution, instead of working more proactively than reactions.
Man, Scott, when Bradley has another baby, you need another co-host. You need to bring Kenneth on there as your co-host for a little while, because this dude's dropping dimes.
Listen, I'm just going to say it right now. This may be the best podcast anybody's ever done.
Dude.
Ever.
Kenneth,
I'm talking Lewis Howells. I'm talking all of them. This may be the best one.
Dude, Kenneth's dropping some bombs. Okay, so on that note, you brought up intranet. Just to set the table, I want to close out with this. So if you could set the table, one of you two, what is intranet for those who don't know? And then how did you come to this conclusion? Where did, Mind Your Agency come from? Just kind of wherever you want to take that. There's no real question. I just want to get into it and highlight this a little bit on part of the show as we, begin to wrap it up.
So what an intranet is it's basically, for, if you don't know, anybody listening, it's basically an internet, but for your company, that has workflows, processes, procedures, and just general knowledge to help your team have the resources they need. And whenever Bradley started Portal, one of the first things he did, which I'm very grateful for, was he had the bones set up. Like, he had an intranet. It wasn't pretty, but it had the info that we needed at the time. And I'm really glad that he started whenever he did, because that was, I believe, in 2019, and then we had the hard market a little bit after, and then we had COVID, and So the bones were there, and just over time, it's taken us 4 years to build this thing out to what it is. And I think it's really been helpful to us, because whenever I talk to people about, the project we're working on, is I'm like, anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. It's whether you have the time and the resources available to do it. But yeah, so Bradley had asked me to help him on the intranet a few years back, and I wanted to take it and run with it. So we've really fleshed things out. I had to learn a lot. Figured out how to build it for Microsoft products, and just out of nowhere, I believe it was November, Scott, Bradley was like, "Hey, this thing's looking real good. Do you think you could build this for other people?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You want to?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so that's kind of the birth of it. And so what we want to do is, we want to be able to create this resource that's invaluable to our agency and help others build it. The kind of people looking for, like, not necessarily as agencies, but like people that, kind of just chasing their tail, so to speak. Like you have processes.
He's looking for Scott Howell.
Well, I was going to say, Scott, if you could, piggyback on it, maybe give some use cases, and maybe I'm sure you're using it in your agency, and just kind of walk through a little bit of that.
Yeah. So just real quick,
Thanks, Kenneth. That was
30
awesome.
30 seconds, and I'll let Kenneth get back to what he was saying. So used to, like, going all the way back to 2019, I would go to like Mike Stromso's UPP event or Chris Paradiso's mastermind event. And there was this one theme that I kept hearing, and that is your agency, especially as you get bigger. If Heath and I start an agency in Arkansas tomorrow and we're keeping all of our stuff in a Star Wars Trapper Keeper, we probably don't need an internet. We got 3 policies in the office, right? But the bigger you get and the more people you hire, you need to have a place where maybe the first 45 days that new hire can go and watch videos of everything from, how to do agency Zoom. And sometimes we'll pull stuff from places like Hawksoft or Agency Zoom to help teach people. But when I would go to these events, Paradiso and Stromso were saying, you got to have an intranet. Oh, but here's the last thing they would say. It's going to cost you about $75,000, but you got to have an intranet, for your agency. And I think what we've been able to accomplish with Kenneth being kind of the boots on the ground is the ability for an agency to have an intranet and not have to open the checkbook out and pay somebody $75,000 or $100,000 to develop it.
Kenneth, do you have anything you want to add to it? Chad may have something to add, but Kenneth, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Scott nailed it.
Awesome.
Scott nailed it.
I want to say that coming full circle on this is, the theme of the day is energy, and that intranet creates that energy for not only, that connection that you're talking about, but just like Kenneth was saying, sometimes I have to fake it, but the energy's there to use it in that intranet. You don't have to fake it every time. It's already there for you to use. So.
Correct.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Again,
Also, Chad, you could say anything, and I would just stare deeply into your eyes.
Right?
I think I stopped breathing. Like, I wasn't breathing.
100%. And so, and again, I'm glad you brought that up. And again, as we wrap up, so the thing is, you may have to fake it, but I think you're faking it for yourself. The realness is like the why you're faking it. You're faking it for your team. That's real. That's the realness that you have. Like, you're faking it internally because you're like, I got to get there. But you got a team that needs it. And so that's the real. So I think that's why we keep doing it. And again, going back to knowing your team and what they need and don't need. But, guys, do you have anything you want to say before we close out?
No, this is your show, man. Let's go.
Dude, like you said, Scott, this has been a phenomenal podcast. Like,
you guys delivered. Thank you.
For sure.
Hey, I want to say one thing before we go. I was talking about how we all have this image of God being a person. He's an older gentleman, big beard, maybe
Yeah.
has the staff or whatever. In my mind, his voice sounds like Chad.
Right? Not Morgan Freeman, but Chad
The
Skinner.
voice of God, right? Like if I could choose like one person on the planet to be the voice of God, to match that image that we all have of him as a human being, that voice would be Chad.
Hey, Chad, you want to close us out with that voice of yours? Because that was awesome.
I would say, be careful, Scott. You might hear me at some point.
It's God. It's God.
That is awesome. God, thank you so much, both of you guys, for being here. Thank you, Voice of God, for coming to join us, too. Ladies and gentlemen that are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more. If you're listening on, wherever, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen, keep listening. And then after you listen to ours, maybe you go find the insurance guys and give them a listen too, because they're amazing.
Yes.
Good friends at Vertafore. Kenneth, thank you so much. If you want to reach out to them, I'm sure you can find them on LinkedIn. Scott Howell, Kenneth Williamson. We may put a link in the show notes. Again, thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we'll see you on the next one. Well, that was a great episode.
Amazing. It was an amazing episode.
I really enjoyed that content. Guys, if you enjoyed that content and you want more of it, make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Nah, dude. You got to tell them to crush it. Crush that subscribe button, guys.
All right. Whether you want to crush it, smash it, hit it.
Bop it?
Sure, we could bop it. Either way, guys, we don't want you to miss another episode. We enjoy spending time with you, the VIP.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.